What's up, everybody? Welcome into an edition of Game Time with John Eads. For those who don't know, I'm John Eads. I work at WAFB TV here in Baton Rouge, and this is my podcast where we talk about a lot of different things: LSU football, LSU basketball, baseball, anything Southern, of course, everything that's going on around Baton Rouge. Today, we're going to lock in on LSU baseball because when that time of the year rolls around, the early spring, late winter, early summer, that is one of my main responsibilities, is keeping up with and covering the LSU baseball team. 2024 was my first season following along. It was a very fun and exciting season that ended in Chapel Hill. But then obviously last year was my second season, and that was quite fun. The Tigers winning the national championship, going to Omaha, and winning in thrilling fashion against Coastal Carolina. Jay Johnson's second national title in just 3 years in Baton Rouge, and now the Tigers on their way to attacking the next one, hopefully the third under Jay Johnson in what would be, I guess, 4 years or 5 years at that point, whatever it is. Been very successful so far in Baton Rouge, and I've been following along with this team ever since the summer ended. Some of the guys stuck around. We filmed some interviews in here with Jake Brown, with Zach Cowan. We saw Stephen Milam a couple times doing some charity things over the summer. And then once school starts, they welcome in the freshmen. They get the transfers in there. They're doing the strength and conditioning with Chris Martin, acclimating to the program. And what I really enjoy about Baton Rouge is that there's a lot of coverage of the fall baseball stuff. So they allow you to come in and watch the scrimmages. They allow you to go to the exhibition games, which were in Biloxi. They also had a couple out in Hammond against Southeastern Louisiana, a bit of a doubleheader there against a very, very good team. And I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but it's certainly like that here in Baton Rouge, where they allow the media to come and watch. They do 3 and 4 scrimmages per week throughout the months of October and November. So you get a real good look at what the team is going to kind of be this year. You get to take a look at some of the new players, get to know the new names, new faces, and kind of put some data and film out on these guys so that we, and then you guys as well, the fans, kind of get to know these players and learn about, hey, who might be a factor on the team this year? What kind of a role are these guys carving out? So on and so forth. And I've been fortunate to carve out some of that time into my schedule, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, to go to most of those fall ball scrimmages and get some video, see some things, talk to some of the guys, and kind of get a sense of where the team is at here as they wrap up fall. They just did their Jamie and Chief World Series to wrap up fall ball, where a lot of the starters didn't play. They let some of the younger guys and the transfers and whatnot get a lot of those innings and opportunities, which gives us a good chance to see who some of these new players are. And obviously in this new era of NIL and the portal and all that is a lot of turnover in the roster. But really not this year, and that's where I want to start. I kind of want to go through, starting with the position players, the new faces and names. Well, I should say the returning faces and names, and then we'll get into the new faces and names in the second half of the show here. And we'll start in the outfield, and I feel like it's very solidified there. All 3 of your everyday guys from last year are back. They're kind of shuffled up in different positions here this year, but that was by design. That has always been the design. So Chris Stanfield, who was your starting center fielder last year after transferring in from Auburn, had a very strong season both in the field and then also at the plate. He kind of moved up and down the lineup a little bit. For a majority of the season, he was your 9-hole hitter and did a great job turning over the lineup. He hit about 300 with 53 runs, 15 doubles, a couple triples, even had that 1 homer in there, 31 RBI. Also was an asset stealing bases, had a ton of very nice plays in the field as well. He's going to be moving to left field for this season, though, if you didn't know. And Derek Curriel, the guy that really stormed onto the scene last year as a freshman, will be moving into center. And again, that was always kind of the plan when they recruited DC, when they brought in Stanfield, and kind of when Chris, who, by the way, could have gone pro but decided to come back for another year in Baton Rouge, throughout that process of, okay, what would my role look like if I came back for my senior season, it was pretty clear and obvious, hey, you're going to move to left field. And he was okay with that. Obviously, Derek was okay with that. And so that's kind of the one switch you're going to see there. But haven't seen any kind of slip-ups from Chris at his new position, man. It's been the same, if not better. He's making diving catches. He's fielding the routine ones. He's doing a great job, I think. There's a lot of video that we've captured this fall of him proving that he is ready for that job in left field. So Derek's moving to center, and same thing. Been very steady out there. Instead of being a bottom of the lineup guy, he was a top of the lineup dude. He was typically LSU's leadoff hitter, and he did a great job running up ABs, running up the pitch count, getting on base on top of his stout defensive play. And not to mention, he hit 345, which obviously is not bad at all. 89 hits, 20 doubles, 2 triples, 7 homers, even mixed in some of that power. 55 RBI, but 53 walks to 56 strikeouts is very good and very efficient. Of course, he had that 40-something game streak where he was getting on base. He got on base at least once across that timeline of games, which was just miraculous. And he's put on some weight. He's going to get better, I think. He's not the type of guy that's going to rest on his laurels and not attack every day looking to get better. And so I think he's in for an even bigger sophomore season than he had a freshman season. He's a 2-year guy. He's draft eligible after this season. So if he does all the right things, he'll be ready to go and move on and start his professional career. And then out in right field, Jake Brown returning for his junior year, and this is his draft eligible year. And Jake's had a spectacular fall and is an awesome interview. Always love catching up with Jake. We talked in here for an hour and a half in the summer, and then 15 minutes or so out in Biloxi, and just such a joy to talk to, and a great guy. Hit 320 last season, 57 hits, 9 doubles, 2 triples, 8 homers, 48 RBI, and I thought was very solid in the field as well. I can remember him making some great plays out there. And I think he's in for his best year at LSU yet, man. He really stole the show in the first of the 3 exhibition games against Samford and Biloxi. I think he put the ball in play every time he was at the plate. He had a homer, he had an RBI single, had a nice bunt down the third base line that ricocheted off the bag, had a walk in there as well, and that was a microcosm of what Jake Brown can be this year, which I think is a star. So I'm excited to see what kind of growth he can put together in his third year. And you got Cade Arambidi at catcher. He's back. He played second fiddle, if you will, to Luis Hernandez, who was spectacular last year behind the plate for the Tigers, playing pretty much every game, and had some clutch hitting, especially in the postseason. You think about the Little Rock game. You think about the Arkansas game, of course, in Omaha, where he hits that fly ball into left field that results in a couple runs and gives LSU a chance, and then they obviously go on to walk it off, which was just nuts. And Cade's had a good fall. Really had a good freshman year, too. I mean, he hit 242, 11 runs, 15 hits, 3 doubles, 4 homers, so he kind of showed you what kind of power he has. And now the question and the challenge for him will be, can he mix that offensive prowess with the uptick in innings that he's going to see? Because I think he's going to be LSU's starting catcher. He's done a great job with fielding pitches, stopping them, keeping them in front, throwing to second base when they're stealers. And so I've liked everything that I've seen from him. The question now will be, can he handle that bigger workload? I asked him that exact question, and he said, yeah, I'll be ready for it, and time will tell. He's also been doing a little bit of first base, and I thought that may have been some kind of a joke, but no, it's actually a real thing, and it's just a way for Jay Johnson to get the best bats in the lineup. So that could be something you see this year too. Cade Arambidi maybe playing first base here and there to stay in the lineup and get somebody else in the lineup, like an Omar Cerna, who we'll talk about later on in the program here. Stephen Milam, Tanner Reeves, John Pearson also returning in the infield. Obviously, Milam was your everyday, all-American, all-everything shortstop last year. Just a terrific season, man. I think he only had 5 errors the whole year, which is just unheard of, and Jay Johnson has said that many times. But at the plate, Milam, the switch hitter, hitting .295 with 71 hits, 14 doubles, 11 homers, 41 walks, did a little bit of everything, and an unreal jump from his freshman to sophomore year. I mean, he really leveled up, and I wonder if there's another jump that he could take in his junior season. Hasn't done a ton in fall ball and stuff, hasn't necessarily lit it up, but we've seen what he can do in Baton Rouge, in Omaha, everywhere. So I'm not concerned about him at all. He's a good leader in that infield. And when talking to him throughout the summer, the question was, hey, how do you kind of form this team like you did last year? How do you get everybody feeling like they're a part of this? And how do you get that team chemistry? and he seems to have it all planned and mapped out. They've been hanging out with each other off the field, keeping it light at practice. So he's a great – you only have one returnee in the infield, and it's Milam, and I think if there's anybody you want returning in the infield, it would be your shortstop. I think when it's all said and done, he's obviously going to be one of the best to ever walk in Alec Box Stadium at that shortstop position. Tanner Reeves returning. He played a little bit of third last year. His natural position is second base, and that's where he's been playing pretty much all of fall that I've seen, and he's looked really, really good. The question with him last year wasn't the offense. Like, anytime he got an opportunity, didn't get a ton of them. He had 65 ABs, but he hit 262. He had 17 hits, 3 doubles, 3 homers. Like, he can really launch it when he gets a hold of it and when he gets the chances to, and I think he will this year. But it was his defense. Like, he had some issues out in the field last year. Trying to take a look here how many errors he made. I think 2 errors, and his fielding percentage was .958. But again, he was playing at third, and that's not his natural position. There's a big difference between second and third and the position you're more comfortable with. He's more comfortable at second. He's out there making diving plays, fielding ground balls with ease, turning double plays, getting it over to first. He's doing a great job. So I would expect Tanner Reeves to carve out a role for himself this season at second base, and then with what he does at the plate. John Pearson had a really good summer. Went up to, I think, Wisconsin, played for the Lacrosse Loggers in the Northwoods League, and I feel like every time I opened up my phone and was going on social media, John Pearson just hit a home run. He had a really, really good summer. And last year, he showed some flashes of what he could be. Obviously, Josh's younger brother, he has since changed his number from 47 to 11, and he hit 238 with 5 hits, a double, and then 2 homers. I think one of them clanked off the scoreboard, if I remember correctly. So a very intriguing young player that I think is in line for some improvement this year. I don't know that he'll be the starter at third, at first, but I feel like he'll mix in a little bit more than last year, and he mixed in a decent amount last year. He had 21 ABs, like when they wanted to go with a righty-heavy lineup in the middle of a game, John was one of those first guys to get the nod and insert as a pinch hitter, pinch runner, whatever it is, by Jay Johnson. So he's had a decent fall, I think. He's hit a couple homers here and there. He's had some extra base hits here and there. Been pretty steady, I think, defensively. He's lost a little bit of weight. That's the other thing they were trying to work on with him is the athleticism, to play that third base position. And I think he's done a pretty solid job addressing that with Chris Martin and company. Real quick, just a couple transfers that have stood out to me in the fall ball scrimmages. They didn't bring in a ton of them from a position player standpoint, but they've all been impactful. Seth Dardar, 60-year guy from New Orleans that transferred in from Kansas State most recently. He's been a couple different places in his career. Has had some extra base hits in the fall scrimmages. Very vocal player, and I've seen him a lot at third and at second. So I think he's also a lefty. He'll get opportunities at third and second. Zach York, another lefty, transferring in from Grand Canyon. Number 34 transfer in the country. Hit .328 with 32 doubles, 2 triples, 32 homers, and 57 RBI in 3 years as an Antelope. And he's looked great in the fall. I feel like every time he's at the plate, he's making something happen. He's smashed a lot of homers, a lot of extra base hits. He's a big dude, and he definitely uses that to his advantage. But that doesn't take away from his defensive skills either. Like out in the field, I think he's done a really good job at first base, making some not routine plays look pretty easy, like fielding a ball, throwing it to second to get the lead runner, and then catching it on the return to get the double play, different things like that. And he's also a big personality. He and Jake Brown play off each other well. I think he's going to be a fan favorite, but he's also a good baseball player. I think he'll probably be your opening day first baseman. I think based on what I've seen, he's got to be your opening day first base. Depending on what the pitching situation is on the other side and whatnot, I just think Zach York's been too good to keep off the field at this point. A few more for you. Braden Simpson, transfer from High Point, hit .323 with 46 doubles, a couple triples, 37 homers, 136 RBI across 3 seasons. First team All Big South performer last year. Was also top 10 in the country in doubles, slugging percentage, and RBI. So this guy can really get it done at the plate. He had 2 homers in Biloxi in the exhibitions against Samford. He's really shown off that pop throughout fall. He's been mostly in the infield, again at like second, a little bit at third, a little bit at first. He's one of those guys that they're just going to try to find a spot for in the field or as a DH. Same with Seth Dardar, I think. Just a good bet to have. Like maybe even like a Dalton Beck from last year. I think he'll have more of a role than Beck did. Dalton was kind of a pinch hitter here and there and had some big moments at times. But I think Simpson can be a guy that sees the field a little bit more. Daniel Harden, that name may ring a bell. Prairieville native, graduated from Catholic High, won the 2022 state championship there with, I believe, Jack Ruckert and William Schmidt. Also played football for the Bears. Spent a couple years at a community college, McClellan. Hit 354 last year with 16 doubles, couple triples, 12 homers, 59 RBI. So he's one of these guys that maybe was getting looks from these big schools out of high school, but needed to go the JUCO route for a couple years and acclimate to college and improve a couple things. And he's done that, and he's looked great. He's been in the starting lineup in the exhibitions. He's a lefty. Obviously, the outfield spots are spoken for. It's Brown, Curiel, and Stanfield. But I think Harden, with his bat, can find his way into the lineup, being that left-handed guy that can hit for power, has good speed around the bases as well. He's hit some homers. He's hit some doubles. He's had a good fall as well. He's definitely a guy that stood out. And then the last one is Trent Caraway. I think he'll be your opening day third baseman, number 30 transfer in the country from Oregon State. Hit 281 with 20 doubles, 14 homers, 57 RBI in 2 years as a Beaver. Also was the Corvallis Regional MVP last year when Oregon State was in the NCAA tournament. He hit 6 homers in that regional, and he's been really steady at third base, making all the plays defensively, has the offense. He's not like a big offensive guy, but he's got a big bat, and I think that he can be a two-way impact player for you. He's not Tommy White in terms of the hitting, but I think he brings a little bit more from a defensive standpoint. He's a little bit better offensive player than Michael Braswell, I would say. I don't know if he's as good defensively. That remains to be seen. But I think he's been very solid there. So I like the returnees. If I had to guess the opening day lineup based on the field, your outfield we've already covered. I think it's going to be York at first base, Reeves probably at second, Milam at short, and then Caraway at third. I don't know who Milwaukee's going to throw out there from a pitching standpoint, righty-lefty. But if I had to guess, that's going to be your starting infield and outfield. And then Cade Beatty, I think, behind the plate. So that's a look at the returnees for LSU baseball at this point. Also some of the transfers from the field. Got a few minutes left here, so let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll cover some things from the pitching standpoint. Stick with us. All right, let's talk about these LSU pitchers. There are a lot of them. I was going up and down. I mean, this is the sheet of paper I got. I mean, it's filled up with names top to bottom from a returnee standpoint, so much so that we might need to do a separate episode on the transfer pitchers and some of the freshmen that have stood out because we're going to run out of time here. But let's just kind of go over the pitchers that are back. We'll start with Gavin Guidry. Why don't we start there? He's the first number you'll see if you look at the roster from a pitching standpoint. He medically redshirted last year, had the back and the nerve issue he was dealing with, was supposed to pitch against Nichols in that very early season trip to Thibodaux. They canceled that game day of. I remember coming into the office and I was ready to go, and then I heard about 2, 3 o'clock it's not going to happen that day, and they rescheduled it for later. But flashing back to 2024, 2-0, 2.59 ERA, 24 in the third innings, 36 strikeouts, 18 walks, building on that great freshman season he had when he really was one of those stalwarts in the back end for you from the bullpen standpoint in Omaha. Solid season. I think everybody was excited to see if he could be a starter in 2025, and that was going to be what his role was, at least from a midweek standpoint, and then the hope was that he would become a weekend guy potentially, but he never even got to throw because of that injury. So he's back. I saw him pitch last Friday, late in the fall here, and had some good moments, but also gave up a homer at one point. I can't remember who hit it off of him, but some ups and downs there, getting acclimated again to pitching. He took basically a year off. So I'm not sure what his role will be, but he can do a lot of different things for you. I think he's hoping to get a starting gig And we'll wait and see. I think I need to see a little bit more probably in the preseason to make a jurisdiction or a decision on that. After that, William Schmidt. Another guy hoping to start for the Tigers this year. He's typically done what Chase Shores did last year this time of the season. He would be one of the starters for the Sunday scrimmages. He would be one of the starters for the first game because a lot of these exhibitions are on the Sunday, late in the week there. And he's looked good. I think his best outing was his most recent. He got 2 innings in relief, actually, in this situation. He came in for the second and third. I think it was 6 up and 6 down. Or maybe he gave up 1 single, but he struck out 6 guys. I know that for a fact. And had some very quick innings, looked dominant. I think that's what everybody's hoping for from Schmidt this year. He showed some signs last year. He was a midweek guy, typically, but never really seemed to turn the corner. 4.73 ERA, 7-0 record. 17 appearances. He started 6 games. Most of those, the midweeks, 32 1/3 innings. Gave up 28 hits. 18 runs, had how many strikeouts here? 22 walks, 41 strikeouts. So you're hoping to increase and decrease those numbers, and I think the hope is that he could put together some of the stuff that made him such a highly touted recruit coming out of Catholic High, a guy that turned down the draft to come to LSU. So I think right now, if I had to guess, he'd be your Sunday Game 3 starter based on what I've seen. I'm not super 100% confident in that, like lock it in, but I think if I had to guess, he would be that guy for the opening series in mid-February there, and we'll see if he can grow and continue to improve over the next few months leading into the season. So many more names to mention. Maverick Rizzi, I've seen him pitch a little bit. He's been pretty solid, I think. Bullpen guy last year. I think he led the team in appearances, though, if I'm not mistaken. 24 appearances, yes, led the team. Everybody. And Jay had said that in the middle of the season last year that would be the case, and that ended up being the case. And he was pretty solid. There's some high-leverage pitches for the Tigers as a freshman, 4.74 ERA, 29 strikeouts to 19 walks. I think you're hoping to knock that walk number down a little bit. That was kind of his issue, and a lot of these guys was the walks, giving guys free bags and stuff. So I'm not sure. I don't think he's a starter guy. They were trying to expand his arsenal, but I think he'll be one of those key bullpen arms for the Tigers this year. Kason Evans made the transition from bullpen to starter last year, really broke out against Tennessee in the Sunday win, which clinched the series for the Tigers last year. And then, obviously, against Little Rock, he had that heroic stretch where he came in, put up zeros, and helped LSU eventually come back and win that game and win the regional title against those that pesky team from Little Rock there. But Evans has been great recently. He hasn't done a whole lot, to be honest with you, from a work standpoint. They've only given him an inning here, an inning there. I think he pitched 2 most recently. They really slowly ramped him up. And I talked to him a little bit. He's itching to get out there and throw some more pitches. But they really want to be careful with him, not overwork him too early. They want to rest his arm for the season because obviously, I think as of right now, he's projected to be your Friday night guy. And I haven't seen a ton because he hasn't thrown a lot of innings, like I said. But based on what he did last year, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be your opening day starter against Milwaukee when opening day rolls around. Zach Cow, another guy that's back from last year. He's hoping to, and we interviewed him about this, get a starting position. I've only seen him a little bit here and there. Some of the days the scrimmages are and guys typically pitch. It's hard for me to see them because I got other things I got to attend to. Seen him a little bit, though, and obviously last year he ended the season very well in Omaha, pitching against, I believe it was Arkansas, that game that felt like 10 hours. He started that game out of necessity and had a career performance, very clutch, helped LSU put itself in a good spot to eventually win that game, and he'll be competing for one of those starting positions. If not, though, he's going to be a very trusted arm out of the bullpen. I think same with Jaden Newt. He kind of showed that he could start last year. He did that a little bit. How many starts did he get? Let me check here. He had 5 starts. So a little bit here and there, especially at the end of the season. That's where he really turned it on. He's had some good moments in the fall, I would say. I think the other day he threw a couple good innings and recorded some outs and didn't have a whole lot going on the offensive side. I'm not sure what his situation is, starter, bullpen. He's been mainly a bullpen guy thus far. I'd probably put him there for now. Maybe he's your midweek starter to begin the season, but obviously still got a few months to go before that's all, decided. Cooper Williams, lefty, freshman, had a good freshman season out of the bullpen. People are talking about him as potentially a starter. I mean, his ERA is incredible. 180 ERA, 21 appearances, 21 strikeouts. Looked really good in the NCAA tournament, but got better as the season went along. They have high hopes for what he can do this season in that pitching staff. So Cooper Williams, I think, is a name to watch. He's a lefty, so that factors in as well as a guy that could surprise and be a pitcher. And then you got some guys that got appearances here and there but weren't huge factors late in the season. Grant Fontenot, I think he's done a pretty good job. DJ Primo still working on some things. Connor Benj, I haven't really seen Benj much at all, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure what his situation is. We'll have to double check and look back into that preseason. He was a pretty important arm for LSU out of the bullpen early in the season, and then he kind of lost his opportunities because I think Northwestern State, when they lost in the rain, was actually the last time that we saw him all year, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see if he can get a bigger role this year. And then Devin Sheeran's the last guy to mention, like Guidry, medically redshirted last year because of a torn ACL he was recuperating from. Had 109 strikeouts, though, to just 32 walks and 70 innings at Mount St. Mary's when he transferred. And people forget, he was a top 10 transfer last year's cycle. Would have been a big arm for LSU. Obviously, they didn't necessarily need him because they won the national championship, but wouldn't have hated to have him, obviously. They'll have him this year, and he'll probably start as a bullpen guy, but he can throw gas. I mean, high 90s, a lot of velocity, and I expect him to have a pretty significant role. The coaching staff loves him, and he's looked good in the appearances that I've seen. So that's all the time we have for now. I need to go rest my voice because that was a lot of talking about baseball. It was a lot to share. It was a good fall. I like the team. I like the chemistry. They like to. It seems like they enjoy being around each other. They play well together. And now the question will be, when the season starts, the pitches start being thrown and whatnot, does that translate to good baseball? So we'll wait and see. Still got the preseason. We'll cover the preseason. And I'm going to do another episode. We got to talk about the transfer pitchers because a lot of them, they look good. And then some of the freshmen that have shown some signs of being a promising prospect in the future, but also this year. I think some of these guys could find their way onto the field. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Much appreciated. Be sure to like the video, sub to the channel here. Give me a follow on X, Instagram, John Eads, WAFB. Should be able to find it. I post a lot, but especially baseball content. All fall is posting baseball content. Preseason and during the season, I'll be posting a lot more. So definitely suggest you give me a follow if you'd like to keep up with all things LSU baseball. And we'll be back soon to talk more about Jay Johnson and the Tigers.